Hi, this is Julianne Grossman, and you're listening to the FSF PopCast.
The show where the voices in our heads are often that of our guests. Hell, it's better than listening to ourselves.
Our show is brought to you by our charity sponsor, the Red Shirt Widows and Orphans Fund, which supports the Wish Upon a Teen Foundation that helps out sick kids when they need it most. And just imagine the comfort you'll give Red Shirt crewman number 131. She'll know that when she puts on the red shirt and joins the starship in traversing the universe with those who boldly go, that she didn't leave her family destitute and without hope, because the Red Shirt Widows and Orphans Fund has her back, and what's left of her turbo thrusters.
All right, guys, our guest today is an amazing voice actress with some stellar credits on her IMDb resume. She has credits in Star Trek Discovery. She's Etta Candy in DC's animated Wonder Woman. She's been on Spaceballs, the animated series, Star Wars, The Old Republic. Hold on, I'm catching my breath so I can keep going. Justice League Action as Hippolyta, and so much more. So I quit because there was just too much. But she's got a fantastic resume, and I'm excited to welcome Julianne Grossman to the FSF PopCast. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. You forgot about Big Barda.
I did, but there was so much that I could have just gone down your resume. There's so many cool things to talk about.
Then time would be up. I mean,
exactly.
Right.
So
Big Barda was a lot of fun. Yes. So
yeah, be like, so you had Julianne Grossman on your show? Yeah, we did. We just went through her resume. That's all we did. We just went through that.
Just read her IMDb.
We were all exhausted by the time we got to the end of it, but yes, we went through it.
Nice.
So one of the things we love to do on the show here, Julianne, is we love to talk to our guests about their origin story, what got them to who they are and what they're doing and why. So in the story of Julianne Grossman, what got you interested rather in doing work in the entertainment industry, and even more so in voice work in particular?
That's a great question. I was using my Grandma Seal's staircase platform as a stage for my antics when I was about 3. And I insisted that everybody sit down on the sofa in front of me. And there was a little banister coming up the stairwell with a little ball on top of it, decorative ball. And that was my microphone. So I would sing and dance and make everybody listen, to me. You can only imagine what that would be like, listening to a 3-year-old who made you sit down. And that's kind of when it all began. My father remembers the potato masher that I used as my microphone when I was a kid. And I just always loved making everybody laugh and entertain people. And my grandmother was an opera singer with the Cleveland Symphony.
Oh, okay.
So I had an interest in voice early on. I was fascinated by the voice. I sang as a kid. My grandmother paid for my singing lessons. But even more than that, when I got into college, I got really interested in the pedagogy of the voice. And the way that the idea that the voice is really the only instrument we have where the emotional connects with the physical, where we can actually, it's a tangible thing, the voice, where we can, it's the only instrument we have that allows us with our own biology to exhibit trackable, recordable emotion. And so I came this close to going to school for voice and speech pathology and pedagogy. And I did an acting MFA, or almost completed one instead. But I've always been fascinated by the voice and by voiceover, because it's such a little niche business, and you don't have anything to use other than your voice to get your idea across. You don't have an eyebrow to raise. You don't have a smirk. You don't have, anything at all but your voice. So it's just such a great feeling to get it, right in the pocket.
Excellent. That's a great answer. For one, used the whisk. That was my microphone when I was a kid.
Oh, love it. Love it.
See, and I love it. You said that you can't imagine having a 3-year-old telling you to sit down. I'm like, she's 4 and she's in the other room.
As soon as you said that, I was like, yeah, I can. My daughter's 16 now, but she's do the same thing. So,
oh my gosh. All right. So it runs in our family then, the
It
FSF.
does, but it was so funny listening to that. You mentioned that your grandmother was an opera singer, so was mine. But my grandma's name was Julianne, which I think is even funnier.
Wow.
I know, like as you're talking, I'm like, yeah, my grandma was an opera singer in Grand Rapids and in Kalamazoo in Michigan. Yeah.
Mine was in
And
Ohio. So
that's
same neck of the
awesome.
woods.
That is awesome. And I was that same, sit down and listen to me, look what I can do.
Right.
And so was my daughter.
Unfortunately.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, we're a bundle. We tend to be a bundle.
But
I
it's
love that.
fun.
Your grandmother was Julianne. That's great. My grandmother was Celia.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
cool.
So I was looking at your website and your list on IMDb and your list on your website, and you have an amazing list of voiceovers for commercials and campaigns, specifically is what I was looking at. It
Mhm.
mentioned Target, Nissan, Arby, Applebee's, it went on and on. But with your voice being used in so many different places, are you ever surprised when you hear your voice in a commercial? Like not paying attention, the TV's on, and suddenly you hear your voice in the other room?
I wouldn't say I'm surprised as much as I'm highly pleased, because that means cha-ching, a residual.
Oh yeah.
Fair enough.
Yes, there's nothing better than hearing my own voice on TV. Not because I love the sound of my own voice. I rarely watch anything I'm in or listen to anything I'm in, but it's just good to know that I'm still out there and the contract is still good.
There you go.
I understand that. I can see that.
My brother is a musician, and he's had a couple songs contracted for a couple different movies, a couple like the Medea movies, and there was a TV show called Blue Mountain State for a while, and he had a couple songs that were licensed for that.
Very
And so every time those episodes would come on, he's like, "Honey, we're getting a check. We're getting a check, baby."
Exactly. I mean, it's the most amazing form of passive income. It's thank God for our unions,
There you go. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, as nerds, one of the things that we enjoy are some of the stories that happen behind the scenes of
Mhm.
some of our favorite shows.
Mhm.
And the stories we don't often get to hear are the ones that are behind the camera. So, what was a scene or a scenario that happened behind camera that you found highly entertaining or funny?
Within the Star Trek realm or any realm?
Any realm that you're welcome to share, but
Will
I mean,
you take a Spaceball story?
sure.
Oh, for sure.
Okay. Got a few of those, as obviously working with Mel Brooks, Joan Rivers, and Dom DeLuise. You can imagine that there were a lot of beeps and giggles going around.
Yeah.
One day, Dom DeLuise was wheeled in. He was in a wheelchair by then. And of course, he's Pizza the Hut, right?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
to do his voiceover, he had a bunch of celery and carrots that he was going to chomp on while he was delivering the line. And I don't remember what the line was, but he took, a bite of carrot and said, "I'm gonna," had some water, tried it again. "I'm gonna," had some water, tried it again. "I'm gonna," Jesus, Mel, I got a whole Puerto Rican family in my throat. And we were all hysterical laughing. And Mel Brooks says, "Of course, you can't deliver my comedy, but you can deliver your comedy while you're choking." So
Nice.
that was a good one. And then there was the time when the wonderful Joan Rivers came on the set, and of course she was Dot Matrix in the film when she was a young woman, and she was the only one of all of us who addressed Mel as Mr. Brooks. And she came in. This took place in March of what year? Don't ask. And she said, well, it was an election year. It was March of 2008. And she said, I don't know what to do. I was going to vote for Obama in the election, but I heard that he swore on a Koran. I said, no, Joan, that didn't happen. He didn't swear on a Koran. You know what? Let me take your email. I'll give you I've done a lot of studies on this. I'm voting for Hillary, but if you want to vote for Obama, that's fine. And let me give you the real deal on him. Oh my God. Thank you so much. And so she gave me her email. I emailed her everything I'd found. And to this day, I still have her email. That was really cool. Just personally getting to know her. And as you can tell, I do an imitation of Joan Rivers, which when she wasn't there in the space, Mel would ask me to fill in for her. And then until one day I'm doing her voice, and he says, stop it, Julianne. You got to stop impersonating, because our editors can't tell who is Joan. So just read it in your normal voice. So
that is an incredible Joan Rivers impersonation.
Thank you so much. I channeled her. I loved her.
Yeah, that is actually really very good. As soon as you started, my head kind of shot up like, wow, that's kind of spot on. That's really good.
Did she ever hear your impersonation of her?
No, I never.
Oh man.
I never did it for her. I was, I had so much respect for her when the few times that we worked together. She was always just dressed to the nines in a beautiful scarf, and and she was so respectful to Mr. Brooks. And I never did it for her. I should have, just to see her reaction.
I can imagine she would have just
died laughing
and died laughing.
Yeah.
Oh,
there's
man.
a story, and I can't remember what the guy's name is right now, but he does an amazing Christopher Walken impression, and he tells a story of him doing his impression for Christopher, because Christopher says to him, I hear you do an impression of me. And the way that the story goes is that, so the guy does his impression for Christopher Walken. At the end, Christopher's like, why don't you go in there, and I don't want to do the session today, go in and fill in for me.
right
because Christopher thought it was so close and thought it was so good.
That's awesome.
So it could have been that type of experience.
Yeah, listen, sound-alike voice acting is so much fun, and it's great kind of work.
Oh yeah.
We've talked to a couple of voice actors who've done sound alike, and it's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. How close that some people get with it.
It's creepy, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Very. Especially Christopher Swindell. We talked with him, and he's done some sound alike for like John Goodman. And he's done some of the stand-in for John Goodman on the Disney Monsters TV show.
Right.
What's that one? Well, not Monsters Inc. is the movie. Monsters at Work. Thank you. It was Monster something. I knew that, but
that's the one with the 4-year-old.
Exactly. And so he did a little bit of his John Goodman for us, and I was just like, holy crap. If you close your eyes and just don't look at him doing it, because it's not that it was off-putting, because it's because it was coming out of somebody else's voice, because John Goodman's got such a recognizable, strong voice, and so when he's doing something, you're like, that's John Goodman. And then to hear John Goodman's voice come out of somebody else's
mouth, it was weird.
I had to close my eyes, because it had nothing to do with Christopher. He was doing a wonderful job, but it was just like, it was so weird to watch. But
Yeah, John Goodman's got a very distinctive voice. You know it when
absolutely. Absolutely.
yeah.
And now, a word from our show sponsor, Level Up Sabers. Their link can be found in the show notes.
Welcome back to the FSF PopCast.
So, Julianne, one of your other bigger credits, and one of the reasons I originally reached out to you is because of your work on Star Trek Universe. We have a big Star Trek following in our group. And our Facebook group, I think, currently is just under 211,000 members.
Fantastic. That's
Yeah.
great.
And there's a lot of really big Star Trek fans in there and a lot of really big Star Wars fans. So many of the folks that we talk to would love to have a hand in one of those major nerdiverses. You've been able to have a hand in both. Because of Star Wars Old Republic, you have a continuing character there throughout the DLCs and everything else. And of course, the ship's computer in Star Trek Discovery, and being able to talk with the cast and do all the things that you do there. But what does it mean to you as a voice actor to have lent your voice to these two massive nerdiverses?
What does it mean to me? It's so incredibly humbling, I have to say. I felt the full extent of that humility when I went to my first Star Trek convention in Vegas. And, I hadn't been a Trek fan. My dad was, but I hadn't really watched. And I had absolutely no idea what to expect. And of course I thought, oh, please, a Star Trek convention. I can only men in adult diapers living in their mother's basements. And I, was so cynical and I get there, astrophysicists, geologists, scientists, engineers. These people were not only so bright, but they took my hands, this pre-COVID, and said, welcome to the family. And, thank you. Your work was, meant so much to me. And they just were so kind. And the abject kindness of the Star Trek fans is mind-blowing. I mean, I was just mind blown by all this kindness coming my way. And of course I'm incredibly honored to be in Star Wars The Old Republic. I don't, feel that as much because I haven't been to a Star Wars convention, or, I don't have any feedback from those fans, but with Star Trek, it just changes your life to be a part of that franchise and a part of that family. It really does.
One of the things that I found with the Star Trek community, because now, frankly, I'm new to the Star Trek community myself. So growing up, I've been very much, and if you look at anything up on the wall behind me, it's all Star Wars. I grew up in the Star Wars camp. That's where I planted my flag. That's where I was going to hang out. And so I've always kind of avoided Star Trek up until the last couple years. And even more so in the last 6 months, I started watching Star Trek. Well, actually it was last year with Strange New Worlds. That's where I kind of went, okay, I watched that series and really enjoyed it.
Loved that. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. It was so good. And so I thought, well, if that was that good, there's got to be other stuff that's good too. And so I started going through Star Trek, and I'm into Next Generation right now. One of the things that I found, for somebody who may have openly mocked Star Trek for years,
You
may have
allegedly.
Yeah. Allegedly, exactly. She gets it. May have allegedly mocked Star Trek very, very openly. I was amazed at how quick the Star Trek community was to welcoming me in. and
Mhm.
saying, hey, you're here, let's, what do you like about Star Wars? Okay, well, let's find something in Star Trek that's close, and let's find this. And people, I had people that I didn't know, shooting me emails and messages and recommendations of, watch this episode, and maybe this one's one you'll like, and wait till you get to this one. And just the kindness, like you mentioned, the kindness of the community has been very welcoming and very encouraging, and makes you, even more so than I think the shows. And I found the shows to be very entertaining. Been very much enjoying Next Generation.
Yeah.
I found that makes me want to watch it even more so, because I like the community that's around the show.
Right. You're connecting with them, and it's
Yeah.
a solid group. I mean,
Mhm.
they're just a a mobilization of this fantastic and intelligent, wildly intelligent, most of them, group of people that are there for each other, and they've spawned new relationships just being in this group. A lot of people got married because they met each other, at a convention, um and it's super diverse too, the community. There are a lot of gay people that are Trek fans, a lot of African Americans, a lot of Asians.
Mhm.
I mean, just Native Americans, like a lot of different, diversity and ethnicities in this community. And I think that's what Star Trek is all about, right?
Right.
It's, we're one, we're in this together. And, I think they've aimed for diversity, since the beginning.
Yeah,
Mhm.
since day one, for sure.
Yeah.
One of the things that you mentioned, that one of the things I have enjoyed about Star Trek versus Star Wars is that I watch Star Wars rather for the booms, the pows, the laser swords, and
Mhm.
and there are things about Star Wars that make me sit back and contemplate life, and I think
Sure.
about things. But I have had more of those type of moments with Star Trek than anything, where I gotten done with an episode, and I have had to sit there and really think about how that affects my life, and
Mhm.
and how these things, moving forward. If, okay, like, if that was to happen in real life, what would be the impact on our society, and how would that, because whereas Star Wars is exciting, Star Trek to me is hopeful.
Yes.
So it
Yeah.
seems always hopeful and always accepting,
Mhm.
you know,
Yes. Yeah,
and
that's a perfect way of putting it.
so.
Conflicts resolve.
Mhm.
Um, hope is always on the horizon. We're in this together.
Mhm.
Yeah, there are some really grand themes in Star Trek that um that really transcend the show. And I think have had I think that's what has created such a large following and such a close-knit community.
Yeah, absolutely.
And one of the things that I like about the Star Trek community is within the actors that we talk to from Star Trek, they talk about that same sense of family. The fans have that same sense of family, but also the amount of times that Star Trek actors give back, and they use their platform as Star Trek actors to be able to give back. We're
Mm.
actually working with Armin Shimmerman, Kitty Swink, Jonathan Frakes, John Billingsley, and their PanCam team to help
Mhm.
with pancreatic cancer.
Yep,
I found it interesting that you work with the Didi Hirsch Suicide Prevention Center.
I do, and I'm so glad you brought that up.
And that is an amazing, amazing thing to be involved in. Can you tell our viewers and our listeners how you got involved, how they can get involved, and why that cause means so much to you?
Fantastic question, Kathleen, and thank you so much for asking that. I attempted suicide in 2002, and was subsequently involuntarily committed into 3 different psychiatric hospitals. When I got out, I did what any sane person would do. I wrote a comedy about it. My play, From Bonkers to Botox, enjoyed a sold out run in LA. I was a featured performer at the HBO Comedy Festival. The show ended up getting an NBC deal. I mean, it was successful beyond my wildest dreams. But the most important thing, and really the legacy of the play, was that I joined efforts with the Didi Hirsch Suicide Prevention Center. We were looking for a community mental health center to funnel a portion of the proceeds to, and I spoke with a couple different organizations, and Didi Hirsch was far and away back in 2005, the most organized, had the most resources available. So we were able to donate a portion of the proceeds to Didi Hirsch. I was then presented with a commendation by the organization's CEO, a woman who is still near and dear to my heart, Dr. Keita Curry. And for 17 years, I emceed one of their biggest fundraisers, Alive and Running, the 5K. And because the cause is so meaningful to me as a person who struggles with major depressive disorder, it is so important to me to shine a light on this and to talk about it and to encourage dialogue about mental illness among people who are suffering and those who love them. And I got to tell you, this organization, which if you're in crisis or you know somebody in crisis, call 988. It's as easy as that. Call 988. You will be taken directly to one of three organizations. Didi Hirsch is one of the three. And if someone you know or love is suicidal, all you have to do is keep them safe for one day. That's it. Look over them or make sure they have someone there with them, looking over them for one day. And sometimes that's all it takes. And the next day, they're more hopeful. Or the next day, you decide, what is to be done tomorrow. But for today, you just want to keep them safe. Didi Hirsch also has what's called the Survivors of Suicide Attempts support group. I was a peer participant of one of these groups. They're incredibly effective with people in crisis who don't have a lot of money or resources on their own. They can go to this group therapy session. Also, people who have lost someone to suicide. There are support groups and therapy sessions for those who've lost someone.
That is fantastic.
Yeah, it's so fulfilling to be a part of their world.
Well, I am so grateful that you failed your attempt.
I'm very bad at it. I'm very bad.
That is one of the best things to be bad at.
Absolutely.
And that you are using that to help others. That is absolutely amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being willing to talk about it. And thank you for being able to put it into a format that will not only entertain people, but also get the point across. I think that if we can make it anything that people struggle with, if we're able to take away that stigma that's attached to things, and we're able to make it to where somebody can have a conversation about it. Now, whether it's because of a comedy you wrote where people can have a giggle or two and then realize, what the topic is and what's going on, and then have a conversation because of that, or just having the conversation. I think both ways are fantastic, and whatever gets the job done, really, in that sense, in my opinion. We're chipping away at that stigma, because there is such a stigma about suicide and suicide prevention and people struggling with various levels of mental illness and all these things. So thank you for being willing to talk about that.
My pleasure.
That's the hardest part, that the thing that is the core of your person, the thing that deserves the most care, the most love, the most attention, is the thing that is so highly thought of as being terrible that you're getting help for it. It's like, no, it is, your brain is you. If any other part of your body was hurt, you would take care of it.
That's right. I mean, having a mental illness is exactly the same as having a physical illness.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, being schizophrenic is the same thing as being diabetic. I mean, mental health is health.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And, when I did my play in 2005, which was, a long time ago now, the stigma was even thicker. And,
Oh, sure.
And yet my play was greeted by just overwhelming acceptance. People open dialogues.
Mhm.
People felt more comfortable talking about their own experiences, and it opened doors for people. Whenever we have empathy, for someone who is suffering, maybe we don't have the experience, but if we can empathize with them and just listen, sometimes that's all that's needed.
Agreed.
Definitely.
So certainly that is a project that is dear and close to your heart. But was there a voiceover project that you worked on that was still dear to your heart, but didn't quite get as much love as you was hoping it would get?
Let's see. Didn't get as much love as I was hoping it would get. Gosh, I can't, nothing comes to mind. I have really felt great about, most of the projects that I've worked on.
Is there a lesser known project that people should know about?
Um, well, I'm really proud of the work that I did in the Rage 2 video game.
Mm,
I play Desdemonia in that, and it was my first or facial motion capture job, and it was absolutely the most challenging job I've ever had as a voiceover artist, because you've got all the dots on your face and you have a camera that's right in front of your nose, and you're also having to watch the character on screen deliver your lines for the character while you're mimicking their motions and what they're doing. And it was just incredibly challenging. And at the end of the day, the character didn't look like me per se. I mean, she was a dominatrix in her late 60s, so I'm glad. But she had my facial expressions. It was so creepy to see her in motion.
Sure.
So that's a project that a lot of people don't know about, but that was really fulfilling and challenging to do.
Very cool.
That is
excellent.
really cool.
So,
Yep.
Julianne,
I have time for one more question. Yes.
Oh, I was going to say thank you so much for being on our show
Oh,
today.
good. Okay. Great. Good
Where
timing.
where could our listeners go to find out more about you and your works?
They can go to juliannegrossman.com, JulianneGrossman.com. They can go to JewelGross23 is my Instagram. I can't remember what my Twitter is. And they can, of course, go on YouTube. And I've got a bunch of stuff out on YouTube too. They can also go to Julianne Grossman on Facebook to see some stuff and reach out to me. And honestly, I'm really bad at social media. So if anybody does reach out, please don't be offended if it takes me a while to get back to you. I will. I'm just terrible on it.
Well, we will definitely link your website, your socials, so that people can see what you've got coming out. And we will also link for Didi Hirsch so that people can figure out how to help with that as
Fantastic.
well.
That's
Yes.
didihirsch.org. Thank you. DIDIHIRSCH.org. Thank you.
Yeah,
for doing that
absolutely.
very much.
We will include those. All right, guys, I want to remind you that subscribing is the single most important thing you can do to ensure that we get more amazing guests like Julianne Grossman here today to have these great conversations with and funny moments for you to be able to listen to. So please subscribe. go check out our Discord and our new Patreon page. You know you want to. And go check out Julianne's work as well. She's got some really cool stuff out there. In fact, we barely scratched the surface of all the cool work that she's done. If you go check out her IMDb page, you're going to be spending at least the next 20 minutes going, ooh, wow, she was in that. Holy cow. Anyway, but yeah, there's a whole thing. But if for whatever reason you are not happy with the content of our show today, please feel free to lodge a complaint with the head of our complaint department. That, of course, is Julianne's microphone. Now, if you go to her website, juliannegrossman.com, you'll see that her microphone stalks her and that there's some level of concern here.
That is true.
Yeah, so only send in one copy of your complaint because being a sentient electronic, it will know how to properly file and amplify the need for punishment of bad podcasters like ourselves. And to be honest, once it's done stalking Julianne, we can be sure that it's going to hunt us down and make us pay for our podcasting crimes against humanity. I can't be positive, guys, but I do think this is where Skynet starts.
I've
Well,
never been
thanks
scared
again,
of a
Julianne.
microphone before.
Thanks so much, you guys. I
This was
appreciate
amazing.
it. And thanks for having patience. I know it was a while till I got back. So
Not a worry.
thank you
Thank you
guys.
so much.
You're welcome.
All right, guys, that's going to conclude us for the FSF PopCast. Goodbye.
Ciao.
On behalf of the rest of the hosts of the FSF PopCast, we want to thank you for listening to this episode. If you'd like to be a guest on a future episode, please contact us by means of Twitter or Instagram using the handle @FSF PopCast, or go to www.fsfpopcast.com and click on the Contact Me link. Thanks again, and hope you enjoyed the episode.
Copyright 2023 FSF PopCast.
Reference to any specific product or entity mentioned on this podcast does not constitute an endorsement or recommendation by FSF PopCast. The views expressed by the guests are their own, and their appearance on the program does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. If you have any questions about this disclaimer, please contact us via email at info@fsfpopcast.com. Original music by Jordan Michaels.